guys, welcome back, and welcome if you're new. Today I'll be sharing with you guys how to season cast iron cookware. Cast iron cookware is super awesome to cook with. I love it. It's a non-stick kind of cookware, but it doesn't have a non-stick coating per se like other non-stick pans do. Other non-stick pans have a coating on there that makes them non-stick, but the non-stick coating can leach into your food and it's toxic. Cast iron, some of the substances from the pan can leak into your food, but it's all good. It's just iron. And so that is way better than the toxic pans. So that's why I use cast iron. Cast iron is healthier for you, and non-stick pans have a toxicity that is bad for your body. So I always try to choose a healthier option, and so cast iron is a great healthy option, an alternative for non-stick pans. So let's go ahead and let's dive right in. So today I'm going to be seasoning my pans. There are different ways to wash your pans, but I'm not going to be talking about that today. I'm just going to be talking about how to season your cast iron cookware. I have like 3 different skillets, and then I also have a longer cookware. It's like a pancake skillet. I don't know what to call it. It has a grill on one side and a flat surface on another. And so I'll also be seasoning that. And then what you're going to do to start, or before you season the pans, is you're going to really try to clean them and clean off any rust stains or just big stains. You're going to try and get those out and kind of just really clean it. What I'm going to be doing with the round skillet, that one is actually in pretty bad shape. It's got a lot of rust on the bottom, like I said before, and so we're actually going to soak that in 1 part vinegar, 1 part water, and I'm going to soak that for, I think I soaked it for like 2.5 hours. A good time frame to soak cast iron when it's that bad is like anywhere from like an hour to 6 hours, or even overnight. It's not going to hurt it. You're just really trying to get that rust off, get it clean, and so that's kind of the time frame you want, depending on how bad the skillet or the pan or whatever is. So after that soaked for a good 2.5-3 hours, I took that out of the water, and then I also I drained the water, and then I put baking soda over it. And then I took a steel wool sponge and I just scrubbed the baking soda all over the pan to just kind of give it a good clean finish and soak up all that rust. And so that's what I've done here. And then I rinse it all off, dry it really well, and then it's ready to start the seasoning process. And now you're also going to want to wash. You could do it with soap or just with a steel wool sponge and water. Any other cookware that you're going to want to season. You don't have to soak them all, just the ones that are really rusty and bad and need some love. But the long cookware that we're also going to be putting in the oven, I didn't soak in vinegar or do the baking soda. I just used some water and a steel wool sponge and called it good. So anyway, after that, you're going to make sure both pans are dry, and then you're going to set your oven to bake in 400 degrees. And what you're also going to do is you're going to put both of those pans in the oven, and you're gonna I would say, I just put it in when it's preheating, and then you just want the pans hot enough to melt oil. You don't want it to 400 degrees. You don't have to anyway, because that's just really hot. And so just enough for the oil to melt. So your next thing you're gonna need is you're gonna need some coconut oil. Or you can use olive oil, coconut oil, you can even use lard. But if you're using some like lard or animal fats, or even coconut oil, you want to make sure that you use your pans all the time. If you don't, I would go for like some olive oil. It's just because coconut oil and some of the animal fats that you could use, they do tend to go rancid. So just make sure that you're always using, if you are using animal fats or lard or coconut oil, you should probably just be making sure that you're using your pans constantly. So anyway, get your oil, and then you're going to take the pans out when they're just hot enough, and you're going to take those out and you're going to put oil on in the pans, and you're going to take a rag that you do not care about, and just be careful, it will be hot. And so you're going to take that rag and you're going to wipe the oil and smear it all over the pan. Don't do too much because you don't want it super oily, because then it'll cake onto your pan and get it really sticky. So just enough to kind of make sure the pan is coated in a thin layer of oil. And so once you've done that, and just make sure you get it everywhere, like the back of the pan, even the handle if you'd like, the inside of it, just get it really well. Once that's done and the oven's been preheated to 400 degrees, you're going to put them both in the oven and you're going to set the timer for 1 hour. Also, a little tip, when you're putting your pans in the oven to cook after you've oiled them and everything, I would put a sheet of foil in the bottom of the oven so that any oil that does drip, which hopefully they wouldn't drip too much, because if it's dripping, you probably have too much oil on the pans anyway, but it does help to catch any oil residue. And so that's really helpful if you don't want to mess up your oven. After 1 hour has gone by, you will go and check your pans. And so and it does tend to smoke, so you might want to, open some windows. The oil is just cooking and caking on there and trying to really season that pan. What it's doing is it is caking the oil on there and cooking it and making it soak up all that oil so that it becomes a non-stick consistency or non-stick surface. And so it really helps, and those cast irons will soak up all that oil, and it'll just be nice and smooth. An hour's gone by, and we're gonna go ahead and take those pans out of the oven, and you're gonna look at them and see how well they look. The one pan, as you can see, I actually would like it to be seasoned a little bit more. The rest is still pretty prevalent. You can see it fairly well on the bottom, and so I'm gonna put some more oil on there and kind of just smear it all over, just a little bit, not too much. Give it a little extra oil, and then I'm gonna go ahead and pop it in there for another hour. The other pan looks great and perfect. It's nice and smooth. When you know it's done, you'll have a smooth surface, and it will look really nice and clean. It'll just look nice and oiled and smooth. The long pan that I have in there was perfect and smooth. The other one was smooth, the coloring, I wanted it less rust on it, and there was still a pretty big rust stain, so I went ahead and put it in for another hour. So, alright, so that pan's been in there for another hour, and I pulled it out, and it looks pretty good. I went ahead and kind of gave it the test to see how smooth it was. The oil wasn't caked or sticky. It was smooth, and it looked really good. But while I'm editing this video, I realized that I had forgotten to mention that while I took the pans out of the oven after they had been in there for an hour seasoning, I had forgotten to tell you guys why I would wipe them down after they came out of the oven. That's just because sometimes you get a lot of excess oil and you just kind of want to wipe around there. It also makes it easier to feel the pan, because you can't feel it with your fingers because it's too hot, and so it kind of gives a feel for what the pan is, if it's sticky or if it's smooth. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of checking it, testing it, making sure it's done, and I'm also wiping off any excess oil. So in case you were curious as to what that was, that's what I was doing. So back to the video. There's still a tiny tint of a stain on there, which I'm gonna just let it dry and sit out, to see what it does. But I may or may not go ahead and re-season it again another time. Some pans just need a lot of seasoning, and depends on how well you've kept them and how well you've kept up on the seasoning. So anyway, this pan may or may not need another seasoning, but we'll see. And so after they're done, you're gonna go ahead and take them out, obviously, of the oven. You're gonna let them sit out till they're cool, and they won't be ready to use till they're cool. You just kind of want them to just sit there and kind of just rest. So I went ahead and did that, and then you're ready to go. You're done. You have seasoned your pans. And so it's really, there's a couple steps, but it's really easy steps. So I hope you don't get too overwhelmed with how many steps. They're actually really easy once you get into a kind of like a routine of how to do it. But I will say this, you know, once you have seasoned your pans, all you really have to do to keep up on it is just keep cooking with them. Don't wash them with soap and water. That's a big one, and I'll talk more about that hopefully in some future videos. But you really don't want to wash them with soap. What you want to wash them with is just a steel wool sponge and water, and then you're going to, there's a whole process to washing them, which I'll talk about later in other videos. But you just really want to keep up on the upkeep of them and washing them correctly, and not letting them, not cooking them or leaving them on the stove like I have before and letting them burn the bottom so that it's, you know, starts to rust or whatever. You just really want to make sure that you're taking care of them, and they will stay seasoned. If you take care of them, they will stay seasoned for sometimes for 2 years or a year. It just depends on how often you use them, how well you wash them, how well you take care of them. If your cast iron is really dry and not oily, then your cast iron will probably stick if you cook with it. So to get that seasoned look so that it's oily, that's what helps make it a non-stick pan. So that is how I season my pans. I love cast iron. It's so easy, and it's hardy too, so you can't like hurt the pans very easily, and I just love cooking with them, and they're healthier, and cast iron's been being used for hundreds of years, and it's a great way to cook, guys. It's one of my favorite ways. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this. I love cast iron, and I have been cooking with it since I was a little kid. My mom cooked with it, and so I absolutely love it. So hopefully there will be more videos out on my channel in the coming weeks about cast iron. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. I'll do my best to answer them. And so with that, I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you guys next time. Have a great one. Bye.